Do you ever feel like you have a darker side of yourself that you don't want anyone to see? Yeah, that might be because of your descendant sign. Hola, my beautiful lotus flowers. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're into nerding out on everything astrology, spirituality, and self-transformation, this is the community for you. Today's video is all about the descendant sign, a highly overlooked part of the zodiac natal chart. It's very important to finding out more about our shadow self, people we might be attracted to, or even enemies that we might have in our lives. And the descendant is actually super important to becoming a more well-balanced version of yourself. So today we're going to start the video by talking about what exactly the descendant sign is, because I'm sure a lot of you are like, what? And then we're going to move into talking about how it affects you specifically and your personal relationships throughout your life. And then we're going to finish off the video with me giving you a list of what your ascendant and descendant combination will be. So be sure that you're staying tuned for that. First, the question that I'm sure everyone is wondering: what exactly is your descendant sign anyways? Well, whereas your ascendant is where the sun was rising over the eastern horizon at the time you were born, the descendant is where the sun was setting on the western horizon at the time of your birth. So on the birth chart, and I will input a little birth chart here so that way I can point to it for you, but on the birth chart, your ascendant falls on the cusp of your first house, whereas your descendant is falling on the cusp of your seventh house, which if you look at it on a natal chart, then it's directly across from the first house cusp. Now the house that it falls on is significant because this is the house of partnerships, the seventh house, and this is where we connect the descendant to the personal relationships that we may have in our lives. As many of you may know, or maybe you don't, the rising sign, also known as the ascendant sign, is actually how we tend to project ourselves into the physical world. It's the first impressions we give people, and it's the qualities that we like to display when we don't know people very well. A lot of times, the ascendant sign are qualities that we like to showcase to other people. It's the things about our personality that we're proud of. So in that way, it's kind of like a social filter that we tend to put on. The descendant actually tells us which qualities we suppress when it comes to the world. So say somebody says something to you and you don't know them very well. Maybe you're at work. So somebody says something to you that triggers an insecurity or a feeling of jealousy or aggression inside of you, but you never show that person that. Instead, maybe the way that you like to showcase that you're a good person or that you're fine with the situation is you just laugh it off and turn what they said into a joke. But on the inside, there's something picking at you. There's an insecurity or a jealousy from what that person said to you, even though you didn't show that. So the way that you show your emotion or how that made you feel or whatever your reaction to that person is filtered through your ascendant. Whereas those feelings that you kept inside are highly dictated by your descendant. So in this way, this is why the descendant is also known as a way to reveal our shadow selves, the part of us that we aren't necessarily proud of and we don't want people to see. And in this way, it can also be things that we wish that we could embrace, but we don't. We're embarrassed for some reason. So a lot of times we will actually be naturally attracted to people who display the qualities of our descendant. Somebody who doesn't become insecure or jealous at whatever that person said. We wish we could be that way, but maybe because we tend to lack it, or we tend to suppress it or feel ashamed of it, we're attracted to people who have those qualities and embody those qualities. So this is where the house of partnerships aspects comes into this. Before we get on with the video, please be sure that you are giving this video a thumbs up for me, hitting the subscribe button, hitting the bell, because it helps me reach so many more people just like you that want to learn about astrology. And be sure that you're leaving a comment down below if you've ever heard of the descendant. And once you find out what your descendant sign is, be sure to leave it down below. Now let's dive deeper into how the descendant sign affects you and your personal relationships. As I mentioned before, because we tend to lack or suppress these qualities of our descendant, we may naturally find ourselves attracted to people, whether it's friends or romantic partners, that display these qualities that we feel like we lack. This is where the 7th house comes in. So again, the Descendant falls on the cusp of our 7th house, which is the house of partnerships. It's ruled by Libra and ruled by the planet Venus. So this is where romance and friendship comes into a lot of the time. This is why a lot of the times when you search for information on the Descendant, you're probably going to find a lot of videos or articles that talk about how to find your soulmate using the Descendant. And this is one of the most popular ways to use it, is to try and find who somebody might be most compatible with. But I'm gonna be a little controversial here. I don't believe that the Descendant sign completely reveals who would be the best soulmate for you. I think it definitely reveals who might have the most powerful initial attraction with you. But more so than finding your soulmate, the meeting somebody who displays our descendant qualities is more so meant to open a door for us to learn more about ourselves. So I think you're more likely to find your potential twin flame. So if you're not familiar with the concept of the twin flame, it actually means somebody who you have a really passionate attraction, strong soul connection to, but it isn't necessarily your soulmate. A lot of times it's somebody who was brought into your life to pretty much be a whirlwind of lessons for you so you can become the best version of yourselves. And I think that when you find people who embody your descendant traits and you become friends with them or partners with them, a lot of times you do find yourself learning a lot of lessons. And if they do turn out to be your soulmate, that's amazing. But I think a lot of times it's just that person is meant to open a door that we were keeping closed. They help force it open. Now, just as this can turn into a friendship or a partnership, this can also take the form of someone who is an enemy. So you may tend to somehow project these negative traits onto other people, and you either form an enemy this way in regards to your descendant traits, or you may clash with somebody who embodies your descendant traits because you may be jealous of them, or whatever the reason may be. You just seem to clash with that person. And a lot of times when somebody is projecting hatred or insecurity or jealousy onto you, a lot of times it has a lot to do with their own insecurities. And so that may be true for you too. If you find that you really can't stand somebody, it probably has something to do with who they are versus who you want to be and who you feel like you're not. The way you can use the descendant to trace these feelings to help you do shadow work so you don't feel that way towards these people is by studying your descendant and figuring out how you can work with your descendant traits. The reason this is so important is because the descendant really helps us figure out our shadow side. What are the things about ourselves that we tend to project negatively onto other people? What causes us to be insecure? What traits of ours, if we were to embrace them, would actually benefit our lives instead of continuing to harm it? I will use myself as an example. So I recently found out that I have a Gemini rising. In sidereal astrology, I have a Taurus rising. So I kind of do relate to both, but for the sake of this example, I will use Gemini rising since that is my technical tropical rising sign. So if I have a Gemini rising, then that means that I have a Sagittarius descendant. And one of the ways that this can show up in my life is the Sagittarius descendant tells me that I need to have close relationships and I need to be in a position in my life where I feel a lot of freedom. I need to be able to travel with my partner, with my friends. I need to be able to travel myself. I need to be able to explore new territories, explore new ideas, new concepts all the time. And if I, for some reason, am suppressing that side of myself, or I don't have any close relationships that let me express that side of myself, then I may become resentful, or I may become depressed, or whatever it is, because I'm suppressing an important part of myself. And there may be parts of my Sagittarius descendant that I'm also not proud of. Hola everyone, this is me cutting into my own video real quick because I have a great example of a way that the descendant can show up negatively for you versus positively. So as I was saying, I have a Sagittarius descendant, and there may be parts of that I'm not necessarily proud of. And this could show up, say I am in a relationship, because oftentimes these quote unquote negative traits or projecting them negatively show up in close relationships. So say I'm in a relationship that doesn't allow me freedom. It's somebody who really values commitment, reliability, consistency, and my partner is also clingy. Well, I'm going to negatively project my inner desire to have freedom, to have flexibility, to explore rather than living a typical standard lifestyle, because my Sagittarius descendant calls for me to live an expansive lifestyle. But if I have close relationships that are restricting that part of me, then I'm going to project it negatively on others. But if I'm making sure that I'm embracing that and realizing that I need that in life to be happy, then that is where you can start embracing your descendant positively and becoming more well balanced. Hopefully that example helps you out, because I know that the descendant can be a little bit confusing to wrap your head around, and the way that I'm presenting it to you is a little bit different than the way that I've seen others present the idea of the descendant. Again, a lot of people focus on the soulmate aspect of it, but there's a lot more to it than that. There's finding out about our shadow selves, there's finding out about potential partnerships we'll encounter in our lives and potential enemies that we'll have as well. Before we finish off this video, we're going to take a quick glance at each ascendant and descendant combination, so that way you can leave this video knowing what your descendant sign is. So be sure that you listen for your ascendant, because that will be paired with your descendant. And in this video, I am not going to talk about the specific qualities of each ascendant descendant combination, but you can look forward to videos in the future that may dive more into these ascendant descendant combinations. First, we have Aries ascendant, Libra descendant, and vice versa. If you have a Libra ascendant, you will have an Aries descendant. Next, we have a Taurus ascendant with a Scorpio descendant, and vice versa. If you have a Scorpio ascendant, you'll have a Taurus descendant. Third, we have a Gemini ascendant paired with a Sagittarius descendant. Vice versa, if you have a Sagittarius ascendant, you will have a Gemini descendant. Fourth, if you have a Cancer ascendant, you will have a Capricorn descendant. Vice versa, if you have a Capricorn ascendant, you'll have a Cancer descendant. Fifth, with a Leo ascendant, you will have an Aquarius descendant. With an Aquarius ascendant, you'll have a Leo descendant. Lastly, with a Virgo ascendant, you'll have a Pisces descendant. And then with a Pisces ascendant, you'll have a Virgo descendant. And this is such an important concept because it teaches you so much about your shadow self, and more so than trying to use it for love purposes, use this to figure out what traits you need to work on or what you can embrace in order to balance yourself and feel more happy, feel more mental clarity and more peace in your life. If you enjoyed this video, please again be sure that you are giving me a big thumbs up if I helped you out, and hitting the subscribe button and the bell for me, as well as hopping over to the LaBlue Lotus Facebook community, where we talk more about astrology, spirituality, and self-transformation. If you're interested in more personal content as well as more astrology and spiritual content, you can also head over to my Instagram at Marisa LaBlue. But until then, watch these two videos to help you even more on your journey. I look so forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you again so much for being here. Adios.